My role with the company, as you mentioned, is basically to go out there and provide evidence-based information to anyone that comes along to any of the workshops that I do provide. Our company lives by the triple bottom line, so obviously we want to be economically viable, we want to be environmentally friendly, and I am part of the other part of the triangle, which is the social responsibility aspect of the company. And I have been doing this for a while. I do call on physicians' offices just like a drug rep does, and at the beginning it was very painful because they thought I was a drug rep, and I'm like, hi, before I used to work in the hospital, hi, this is Lillian calling from the hospital. Generally I always had access to physicians. For at the first it was very frustrating, but I learned very quickly that I had to turn things around, and I had to really focus on developing relationships and becoming a partner with all of them. Everyone in the office is very important, from the person in the front towards, and the patient and the physician who's making decisions for on behalf of the patient and vice versa. So that's my main, if I have to think about my job, that's probably about 90% of my job. And I thought that I've been doing this for a long time. I have great relationships with the healthcare systems. I have great relationships with the physicians. Let me focus a little bit more time on these. And I do work very closely with care managers. I work closely with some of the members of the Y. And when Amy Sweeney, who's a drug rep, mentioned Angela's program, I thought that this would be a great opportunity for me to try to bring that to you guys. So I've done this before in different settings, and basically what it entails is a commitment from someone typically from HR or someone who's part of the wellness part of the company. And we can communicate. I do have a curriculum. I am not going to come in and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I like to assess what it is that you feel that your patients need. I mean, your patients, you see. That's always in my mind. What your employees' needs are, and then I will design a curriculum accordingly. And the best part is that we have great tools. We have great online tools. I have great educational materials. I'm also part of the national team that actually helps create educational materials for the diabetes education program overall, nationwide. There's only 9 of us, and I'm one of those 9 and the only pharmacist in the committee, which makes me very, very proud, because more and more we realize that the education that does not only help the patient and drive quality measures in a positive direction, but also the more educated the employees are about what it is they should do, what keeps them healthy, absenteeism is going to be minimized, and they're just going to be happier overall. So the quality of life is of utmost importance. So I'll be quiet. I'll pass my business card. And just to regress a little bit, the event that I'm planning on the 20th, and this is actually the magnitude of what it is we can do. We are actually having a celebrity chef come in and do what we call the Chef Diabetes Academy. And we're partnering with a lot of physicians, an IPA, which is an independent physician association in Rhode Island. It's called Rhode Island Primary Care Physicians Corporation, and partnering with all the Rhode Island free clinics. And we're having this event. We're probably expecting 250 people, but we probably have targeted about 15,000, about 7,000 with direct marketing. And not only we're going to have her come in and do a cooking demo, we're going to share recipes, and they're going to be able to sample the food that, for 250 people that we're going to have that. In addition to that, I will be talking generally about diabetes and how to stay healthy. We also have a team of experts they're going to be there answering questions, checking blood pressure. So it's almost like a lot of work, but I say, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do this again unless I have a helper. It's going to be almost like a mini fair. So that's actually the magnitude of that. We also have Jay Hewitt, who is a part of the, he's part of the U.S. triathlon team, and he has type 1 diabetes. And we have partnered with JDRF, and little kids are going to be there listening to him and really saying, I can do whatever it is I want to do, but I have no limits just because I have type 1 diabetes. So the beautiful part is that the company obviously, has money, and it shifts the money to really provide superb education, not only for patients and training for the staff, but also for in the community. I do have there's about 10 of us in the New England area, so if you're not from the southeastern section, I could always put you in contact with others.
What's the location, Lillian, for the event on the 20th? Is
That
it
is-
in Rhode Island?
Yes, what I can do is after I have internet access, I can actually forward you a,
Okay.
sometimes I think, people in Rhode Island, they don't like to travel, they don't like to cross bridges, and sometimes I
Not
feel
just
like,
Rhode
so it is true. So I didn't even think about, as I actually opened up my trunk to get these this morning, I said, oh my God, why didn't I forward this to you? And it's because of that mentality. I guess I've been there for too long, for like 17 years, and I think I'm, sometimes I don't think I have that mentality, but I sometimes do when I don't want to go to the supermarket that is about 50 miles away from home.
And that being said, you also bring a really great talent that we need in the Southeast, which is you are multilingual, correct?
Oh yes, I didn't mention that. Yes, yes.
So talk to us.
Yes, my lovely Spanish accent. I am fluent in Spanish. I find that it's very helpful. And the beautiful part is because I feel that we can talk about culture and all those things, and we do have trainings for that when it comes to not being so judgmental and changing your questions when you see things happening. So we try to make it very inclusive. But what I find is that my Spanish has, does become handy, especially when communicating with patients and also with some providers in trying to help them understand, how to best help their population. So yes, absolutely. And I have the flexibility of meeting with patients, so that's the beautiful part about my job, that when I'm training like an NP, a nurse practitioner, a physician, an MA, an RN, a care manager, I basically can meet with the patients. Reps cannot meet with patients, they cannot have any patient contact because I'm not about sales. I do have the flexibility once they sign me up and release form, so it's beautiful.
So if you were to come into a Worksite and you were to do, I know I sent out the educational series that most of you have, and if you don't, I can resend it out, but how long would this be? Would it be an hour lunch and learn, or would you spread it over a certain amount of sessions?
That is a very good question. It all depends what the needs are. So what I would say, generally, it would be like a lunch and learn. I'll try to bring like healthy snacks. I probably can partner in trying to look at my budget and see how I can actually best maximize that. But generally, it would be something like that. It could be a PM session where we can, I can make it as short as, like what I said, a teachable moment, like 5 or 10 minutes, or I can make it, I will talk for a half an hour, I'll go to the back of the room. If you have any questions, because I'm a pharmacist, sometimes I have questions about drugs and
Medication that they're on.
yes, and I always make sure that I always have some time, private time towards the end. So generally, I want to say to be on the safe side, generally I say an hour. We could always make it shorter. So if you say, Lillian, I need you to talk for 15 minutes, that's what I'll do. And I try to make it very interactive. It's not always about what it is, obviously, it's not always about what I want to say, but what it is they want to learn.
Great.
Any questions? So I'm very flexible in how we can get this done. I do this all the time, especially with the physicians.
What sessions do you think in the employee setting have worked best for you, that the employees have jumped onto? Mind you, it's going to change from company to company, but...
Yeah. Many times, people think it's all about the food. And people sometimes go, why are you diabetes educator if you're a pharmacist? Well, I'm a pharmacist and a diabetes educator. We need the right timing for everything. The right drug, the right time of administering the drug, and the right dose. The same with the food. We need the right food at the right amount, at the right time. Exercise, the same thing. So now I think about it, it's a little triangle too. So when you think about it, obviously, and stress has something to do with it. What I find the most, people ask a lot about the food and people ask a lot about the drugs. And when I talk about the drugs, unbranded, clinically, just the clinical guidelines. So they want to know, I saw that commercial on TV, what is that drug, for diabetes, it's not insulin, it's this, and I will tell them, this is good about the drug, this is bad about the drug, and about that drug family, because we're talking about the drug families, and, this new drug got approved, what is that all about? So, many times it's about the food, and the medications. I like to think about many times, especially depending on who I'm dealing with, about motivational interviewing and how to change questions and how to, and even with the patients, behavioral change, because that is huge when we want to try to change, and I'm sure you have probably talked about that. You have probably, because we want them to move to that spectrum. So many times I like to focus on that, especially when if I'm giving a talk, I always throw a little bit about that in, so if you're binging on your food, think, how can you change from that negative mindset and asking yourself questions to change to this other mindset, from the judge's mindset to a learner mindset, and what kind of questions can you ask. So many times I incorporate that in my talks.
How many work sites here have employees that have type 2 diabetes, that have issues managing it or have questions? A lot of you. Okay. So I think Lillian would be a great person to bring in, and she also has obviously a good amount of information, and she can afford to bring in the healthy snacks and that type of thing, so that's always good.